Over the last 7 years, I have tried every kind of marketing you can possibly imagine for my business. And I have determined over that time that direct mail has been by far the most profitable marketing channel I have ever tried. And I've spent over $1 million just testing it out, figuring out what works and figuring out what doesn't. And through that time, I've been able to generate over 100 deals per year in my business using direct mail. And now I've created a very small but very powerful mini course on how I utilize direct mail in my business. It explains everything I do from A to Z, and I've made this available to you absolutely free. That's right, no charge, no obligations. Just go to my website, MikeSimmons.com/winning direct mail. MikeSimmons.com/winning direct mail to find out how you can implement my system in your business and start generating more leads through direct mail. Go check it out. It's absolutely free. I can't wait for you to try it.
We bought 5 assets in Arkansas that are inside of an HOA that have a 2x rent mark. Like they're renting for $800 a month, and we're paying $39,000, each.
You're listening to the Just Start Real Estate Podcast. If you're serious about your real estate investing business and need real answers, you are in the right place. And now, your host, Mike Simmons.
All right, thank you for joining me on Just Start Real Estate. I appreciate you being here. I'm excited to bring you the episode that I'm bringing you today. I've got a really fun guest. His name is Christy, and this guy has bought more homes than most investors you know combined. He's done over 2,700 homes that he's acquired, renovated, leased, over that many, just tons. It's a mind-boggling amount. And recently, I heard him on Bigger Pockets. He did a great job. I invited him to come on to my show, and we talked about all kinds of things. We talked a lot about remote investing. We talked about some creative finance stuff. We talked about lenders and getting money for your deals, and we talked about this concept of the buy box. Like, what is your buy box? What's your criteria? What are you looking for? And we just had a great conversation around some of those topics, and it was a lot of fun and I think super duper informative. And so I'm excited for you guys to get into this one and hear it. So I give you, without any further delay, Christy. All right, Tommy, thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate your time. I'm really excited to get this opportunity.
Yeah, I really appreciate the invitation. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I'm not going to lie. I've heard you be interviewed before, and I know that you're compelling, you're interesting, you have a lot to say, and that's why I get really psyched up for interviews like this, where I just know it's going to be great. And we've had the opportunity to talk a little bit and have a bit of a conversation. So I know that there's good chemistry here as far as the conversation goes. So I think this is going to be phenomenal. If you don't mind, can we just give people context who maybe don't know you, haven't heard you before? Yeah. First of all, if you did anything before real estate, let's talk about that a little bit. What your life looked like before that, and how you got involved in real estate, and what led you to kind of where you are now.
Great. So we're centered here in Northern California. And I say kind of centered here in Northern California because we still transact nationally as we push out towards Midwest, Southwest markets in Florida. I did get my start. This will be my 20th year. And wow. That's kind of exciting to say, like in general. There were a lot of people who have kind of come out of the game and come back into the game. And, the most interesting people who reach out to me that I didn't know what they're transacting in or how. I mean, this is now, I can say I've been doing this for 20 years this summer. But prior to it, I was actually selling coupons door to door. And that's how I learned how to knock on doors. And that's actually where you can hit singles, you can hit home runs. It's really just talking to people. So,
what kind of coupons were you selling? What were the coupons for?
Imagine that Groupon style coupon before Groupon. So you buy it for a card book for $35 and it comes with a free lift ticket, and you get buy one, get one free on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and you get free waxings and, rentals, just 50% off rentals. And they actually had a really solid client, but they bring me in thinking, hey, you get the A's, the Oakland A's, you get the Sierra Tahoe, you get all these clients, right? Yeah. And then you end up selling, Mel's Diner, like people that are trying to save $7 on breakfast. And so I was trying to make $10 a card, knocking on 100 doors a day, goal to make $100 a day. I mean, that's
Wow.
2002 inflation for you.
How'd you
I
do?
could live up 2002 inflation.
How'd you do when you were doing that?
It's all attitude driven. The best stuff that I learned there, the C factor, smile, eye contact, enthusiasm, all that stuff, when you apply it and you actually are interested, I never killed it. I grew a team, and it was a management training program, but
Okay.
I left there with $375 in a beer stein. That was moved to my bank account and a need. And then when I interviewed for real estate, I remember telling the gal, "Hey, I have a PhD from Chico State." And she's like, "PhD?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm poor, hungry, and desperate. Like, you need to hire me." And I knock on doors. Like, let's go make some money.
Dude, you know what? If I were hiring a salesperson and he said that, I'd hire him. I would want that person who says I'm poor, hungry, and desperate, because they're going to go out there and bust butt.
And they knew I didn't have any money, so luckily they paid me, but I would have done it for free to learn from the right people.
What made you go toward this real estate company? You had a sales sort of foundation. Sales will take you anywhere, technically, right? Why'd you go there?
This business is really about people. I mean, my brother was a banker at Wells Fargo. Chris was their main client. And from the standpoint of that client that's needy, right? The squeaky wheel client, right?
Yeah.
And he was in and out, and he actually would conversate with the manager saying, I hate to poach your talent, but do you know anybody hireable? Like, I need someone. And it just so happened that at my 6th month of my management training program, I was like, man, I got to do something different. And I told my brother told his manager, and client privileges. She's like, yeah, give him Chris's card. So then we built that.
Nice.
He brought me in. I didn't know the difference between a deed and a deed of trust. I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
And he just said, you can knock on doors and get me appointments. You can learn whatever you want to learn here. So they kept me on until I left in 2005.
Wow. So that obviously that job, I guess, sort of launched your interest in real estate.
Yeah.
So what did that job do for you before? And what year did you go? What year did you start focusing more on yourself and your portfolio and what you wanted to do?
Yeah. So 2005 was me. I actually hired a buddy from college, and we began just doing door knocks, pre-foreclosures.
Okay.
And, for the world of pre-foreclosure, that's all I knew. I didn't understand property management. I didn't understand money. I didn't understand how to recruit money, fundraisers or anything. But people wanted to know more. In 2005, you couldn't go wrong.
Yeah.
It turns out it wasn't me. It was the market.
I know. Everyone felt like a genius in 2005.
Oh, man, I was killing it. But I got lucky because my pops, timing wise, knew I was leaving. He bought I had 4 bad deals. And by bad deals, I'm meaning you don't make but $30,000 on the deals or something like that. Like the guy I was doing deals for had just giant quantity.
Yeah.
So it was 5 buy and holds got me started for that property management side of it.
Okay.
And then from there, it was like, how do I buy, fix, and sell properties in order to enhance my buy, fix, and hold addiction?
Yeah.
And that's my ilovehouses.com is my buy, fix, and sell. And iloverentals.com is my buy and hold. And that's my addictions. Like, I'm not in this to pay tax and, have huge income every month, but except for the fact that I'm trying to set myself up for that horizontal income.
Just as a weird side question, but how hard was it to get those URLs, those domains?
I paid pretty healthy for ilovehouses.com. I paid probably $11,000-$12,000 for that thing.
Wow.
But I paid iloverentals.com. I paid $12.50. And then I had to buy the iHeart versions of it. And then someone asked me, well, do you own the LUV versions? I'm like, I got to stop something.
I really I got to pay for that one.
So you guys can have that. But I actually get people, they'll email me at ilovehomes.com or something. I'm like, I don't know that. I don't know that domain.
So are you, again, this is not really point of anything I really plan on talking about, but are you happy that you spent that money for our I Love Houses? Was that a good investment?
It's a piece of real estate. I mean, it's nothing more than it is a destination, and they rank these things. If you don't get to understand that, if you go back in time 10 years before that, and for 1-800 numbers, there's just phone numbers that people call, and you think a department store would own it, or you call 1-800 insurance or others. Like, when people go to these websites, you get you get organic traffic. And I mean, it's no webuyhouses.com or anything
Sure.
like that. It is a lot warmer. And I love the branding of that. I love duplexes.com and I love mobilehomeparks.com and I love mobiles.
Smart.
So I started buying all that from the standpoint of that's my thing. I literally like it from the marketing side, but as a visionary, owning those and not doing anything with them isn't going to do any good until you get a team surrounding you.
Totally. Has anybody ever offered you money for I Love Houses?
Yeah, I get random offers on some of the ones I own. One specifically, I haven't had it offered in a couple of years just because they see it being used. But the ones I get more offers on are the ones that are parked.
Yeah, got it. That makes sense. All right, so let's talk about what you're doing. You mentioned that you're stationed or your home base is in Northern California, but you're all over the place. Talk to me about remote investing. Why not just stick local or relatively, regional? Why do it all over?
Yeah, and there's a psychology to that. I think I speak a lot about your buy box and knowing it and understanding it. I will say that it does shift, the quadrants of when to develop. When do you spend enough time that you can do a 2-year land deal? When do you buy a rental at an 8 cap or a 6 or a 4 or a 10? So I feel like, residentially speaking, the cap rate is dead because I've never had a year where I'm like, man, my single family killed it this year. It's like I get killed in maintenance or anything random. This 2 years of pandemic is its own beast, right?
Yep.
But I spend a lot more time trying to identify assets that are purchased below the replacement cost of the asset and that have an income that would be lendable from the standpoint of DCR type loans and the debt coverage loans, or something that matches someone who does my volume.
Yeah.
And then the assets that speak for themselves, like high quality assets. I actually get a lot of stuff like manufactured homes or one-off mobiles and things like that still have life in them, that are financeable, that have the 433A paperwork underneath them, or they have an opportunity there. And if I can get terms, I just try and keep as much as I can. All
right. So there's a couple things I want to touch on, but real quick, something you said toward the end there. Did I understand that you're buying mobile homes individually?
We can buy
in a park? Or on land?
We will do those we would do homes in a park for disposition, not for rental. Most parks won't allow you to be a landlord inside of their own park.
Gotcha. Okay. I just want to make sure I was clear on that. And so it sounds to me like, and it's funny because people talk about remote investing and a lot of people are interested in that now. What's interesting though is during the pandemic, in my business, my personal business, we're pretty much local. We're not all over the United States. However, we were closing deals over the phone of houses that were 10 minutes away during the pandemic because people didn't want you coming to their house, right? And so if you're closing over the phone and with DocuSign when the house is 10 minutes down the road, what's the difference if it's, 5 states away, right? It's kind of the same activity.
If you trust the people who have seen it with their own eyes, it isn't any different. I mean, I imagine you're very similar to me. You probably still have properties, even though they're in 10 minutes away. You haven't seen them, or you haven't seen them in 5 years.
Yeah.
So I would say at least 30, 40 of my houses I've never seen.
I love it. I love that. And you mentioned buy boxes, and I want to talk about this because I've heard you talk about it. I love the conversation, and I think it's important for people, because a lot of people are like, oh, just whatever, like show me a good deal. I don't like, they're not focused, right? So just talk a little bit about what you mean when you say buy box and why that's important to even be aware of.
Yeah, I make it relative to the new investors that are like, well, I can't flip a house. I don't have money. There's so much loaded into how you're going to, do the deal you do. Some of the wholesalers out there, there are some amazing, bright, young people who genuinely don't have any money at all. That have figured it out, that if you have something tradable, transferable, leverageable, that's a contract, or there's a real opportunity there. And I see it kind of differently. Like, the buy box of what are you going to do with your money? Like me personally, if I'm buying, we bought 5 assets in Arkansas that are inside of an HOA that have a 2x rent mark. Like they're renting for $800 a month, and we're paying $39,000, each. So I look at these things, I'm like, oh, that's a no-brainer. Yeah. Nobody will ever build a $40,000, 1,000 square foot condo ever again, for any, And so that fits right in that long-term box. Now, if it turns out that I bought 90 of them and I can't afford to finance 90 at the same time, but I could buy 90 and sell 70 and keep 20 for myself. I look at that. I try and identify where does it fit and for who. And there are people that are like, oh, I would split a deal with some people who call me. They're like, this is a really, really good deal. Yeah. They don't have the money for it. They either want to wholesale it, get something up front, or they want to partner up on it. And I try and have multiple boxes. But if you're a civil engineer and you work 50 hours a week already and you're making a great income and you're saving money, then your buy box might just be turnkey doors in Memphis, Tennessee, by a turnkey professional that simply buys a turd, makes it amazing, gives you a 1-year guarantee on it, and does the property management for you. There are some really great operators out there. And I'd buy turnkey stuff if I was getting a good enough discount to market value or rents. Yeah. So I keep my boxes really wide open, but if you know who you are to it, and you're never going to get on a plane, and you're not going to deal with, I think naturally people think, oh, it's a leaking toilet or another. Like, no, it's the weirdest things that drain you down inside of property management. Yeah. And if your buy box is, I buy it, I hand it to a property manager, and I don't think anything of it. Yeah. That's your buy box. Yeah, I like that, because your buy box, it's not just about bedrooms, bathrooms, price. Like your buy box is almost your tolerance for aggravation or for risk. Really great point. Yeah. And I think it's under spoken about, right? Because people think of buy box like, what's your buy box? Oh, 3 2s, brick. That's all they say, right? Well, it's in a bad area. I won't do that. Bad area to who? Yeah. Like what bad area? Have you ever? Would you park your car there overnight? No. Okay, that's probably a bad area, but it doesn't mean you can't own the asset there. It's like, but there are still parts of the world that have $350 rent. I know. And those are like, well. Even if you have 3 great years in a row, one mistake, wipes that out. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So how do you, when you do the remote stuff, you mentioned if you have someone that you trust that's seeing it with their own eyes. Yeah. First of all, I guess the first quick question, how many different states or locations are you buying in? Like, what do you currently have? What's your spread? So, our active flips this month, we're closing in 4 states. We're closing in Oklahoma, Indiana, Missouri, and Arkansas. Actually, and Tennessee. So 5. We have 12. We have our pipelines, maybe 15 to close this month. Okay. And we're probably going to close 12 of them for sure. There's 1 or 2 others that have like title curative stuff, random stuff that we're getting better deals on because we're willing to wait for. Yeah. But, and California. So we're really heavy. It's about 8 if I include Florida, states that we don't do much in. Okay. Like we maybe only have 1 in Florida right now, and 1 that'll come through in Texas. But it really is genuinely about the relationship, and people will call with a deal, or they'll say, hey, do you buy in this area? The answer is always yes. When I see the deal, I'm like, but I can't buy that. Like if it's 110 years old, the porch has fallen off of the house. Yeah. Like if it's surgery or is it nursing? And I just try and qualify the lead. Yeah. And as soon as I can, I back. I want to have rapid response to any lead, which is when it comes to me, I'll get you a fast answer, whether it's yes or no. I love it. And so if somebody comes to you with a deal in an area that you've never operated before, what's your process for getting yourself in a position where you feel comfortable, not just from the deal standpoint and the underwriting? I'm talking more from the person on the ground, and how are you verifying things? Like, how do you get up to speed quickly with that? Great question. It actually changes depending on your volume. In a year where we're going to do 3 a month, and we have time, if it's an REO or if it's a private party, we go the distance on these inspections. And
Okay.
then those are actually, ammunition to work with the bank or the owner or the other to say, I mean, we backed out on one at 330 this month. The next guy bought it for 300. He backed out, and now we're back in contract on it at 250.
Oh, wow.
So it was a pest issue that went all the way up the wall.
Oh,
And we were like, this is not worth the gamble.
Yeah.
The margin was very specific. We were going to make like an 8% margin on the deal because it was a solid school district, a solid
I
property.
gotcha.
And backing out was the right decision on that thing. It was an REO. But when you drive by a house and you're at an auction, our best purchase of the month, the eaves are all tore out, like they're falling down the gutters, and you can see they're using pizza boxes for their blinds,
Yeah.
and it is a hoarder's dream, right? Well, we got inside of that yesterday, and it turns out there's not a single leak that pierced through
Wow.
the roof. So
Yeah.
it was all exterior. You have to just make an educated guess that if I'm wrong, am I either breaking even on the deal,
Yep.
losing my tail, or it's going to be a home run?
Yep.
It kind of fits into these categories. And when you do 100 deals a year, you can get bit directly in the tail on 2-3 of those and
Yep.
not. We lost a deposit this month to a deal that, it turned out to have a foundation issue that we couldn't fix.
Yeah.
So that's the agreement. You get into contract, and the agreement is, here's my deposit. And if I don't live up to what I'm promising, then I'm going to bail on my deposit.
Yep. But if you don't do that, especially when you're talking about 100 deals a year, if you don't do that, you'll never get to 100 deals a year. Like, it's not you can't be meticulously careful about every single thing unless you just want to do a half a dozen or a dozen deals a year, and then let's call it good. That's fine.
The measurement there's actually insurance. If you think about it, it's insurance against your profitability. Are you willing to do a sewer inspection? No, that's $450 times 100.
Right.
Are you going to do 100 chimney inspections? You're going to do so it's this, can you check all these boxes and say, and when you get to a point where every dollar counts, every deal counts, it's part of I'm leaving my job to live off my horizontal income. Check those boxes, nail that down. Only do REOs. Don't do the stuff where you can't. If you drive by it and you can only see it from the outside.
Yeah.
So you just got to check. It's a matter of confidence and comfort. And my comfort level with being wrong is it won't be the first time.
No, and I'm the same way. It's funny you say that, though. Like a sewer check that's $450. Most people would say, well, yeah, for sure you do it. And you would do it if you were going to buy one house that year. You would for sure do it. But $450 times 100, is it worth the risk that one will go wrong, maybe out of 100, to save that $45,000? Yeah, of course it is. And it is for me too. I do the same thing.
And when you get to a point, you start to go to bulk policies and you self-insure. There's the world of, how do you cover yourself, and the cash flow really changes as you try and figure out why you're buying what you're buying and what you're buying. Like, we bought one in St. Louis today that is a 2,200 square foot duplex for $37,000. It's like, and it's brick. The entire structure is well-built brick, so we get inside and see how it smells. But
what would make you completely, from a location standpoint, not necessarily the property, and maybe nothing, but what would make you say, nope, not investing there? Have you ever turned down what looked like a good deal on paper because you just couldn't get behind the location?
Location matters. Yeah. It depends. I think that the greatest word in real estate is terms, right? Like, if someone says, hey, just take this, problem off my hand. I'm walking into a $250,000 duplex, but it's right next door to a gas station. There's a stoplight right in front of it. Across the street is the liquor store. And then to your left is, a gun shop, or who knows, whatever else it is. It has lines out the door every which way. And you wonder, can I still cover my rent with this? Or, the busy streets, there's, right now, if I was to get a phone call from someone in Springfield, Missouri, or Indianapolis, Indiana, I would look at the asset and say, okay, it's 100 years old. Do I have any proof that the main mechanicals are taken care of or have been upgraded? All the previous MLSs and everything, you can read through them and figure out when the assets are done.
Yeah.
If there is a chance that if it's a flip, we're going to get too deep into it, or we don't have an operator there that we have a proven relationship with, or a property management company that would say, I no problem. I will get this thing re-rented for you. We have handyman, we have the tree. I have no problem saying no to those kinds of transactions, but
Gotcha.
amazing terms on deals that's a tough one. That's one that gets my heart running a little bit.
It is. So am I to believe that you're doing buy and hold and flips in different states? Like you're fine. You just look at it and say, what makes the most sense for me? And you do it. If it's buy and hold, you do that. If it's flip, you do that.
And here's my national, it's applicable in every market. In some markets, it's 130K. In some markets, it's 165. But there's that rent to buy matrix affected by the mortgage rates and such. There are just communities where you can't just get product at all. Like there's just nothing for sale. So you can still buy $65,000 turds, but you can sell a house rehab for $165 because you can get it all financed into the purchase. The comps are so far off and all over the board. And I look at those and think, can I fix it? And my biggest filter, which going back to your previous question that kind of complements this, is there a contractor that's willing to work with us, an out-of-state investor? They've been burned by other people on the phone begging for free advice or for other. And how solid is that labor base? Because it could take you 6 months to get a $15,000, $20,000 turnover done in snow, versus. So there are timing things and that'll just keep us. It may be a great property. If I don't have a lot of boxes checked or something like that, I'll end up sending someone from out of state to go over and turn stuff over, which is just not.
So what is your secret? And I'm sort of putting words in your mouth. Maybe you don't have a secret, but what is your strategy or process for finding someone to turn over a house in another state that you've not worked before? Like, are you willing to just go and find people and from scratch and get it done? How do you do it? Okay.
I mean, you have to have a number where when you get burned for your $5,000 deposit, it doesn't kill a deal.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, or can you have done something different in that? It usually starts with the one professional you're choosing to work with. If your real estate broker, agent, or other says, oh, Marvin's your guy, like he's going to turn this thing over for you every time. He's been her maintenance guy or contractor or other for so long. It's so easy to work in and work around other people's networks. Yeah. And so we have brokers that bring us stuff that will manage the rehab. They get 10% of the construction cost and a full boat commission on the exit.
Right.
They get they get a commission on the in, construction management fee, and commission on the out. And it's perfectly aligned with what their own individual goals are. I love working with people who do deals, but have a reasonable bandwidth.
Yeah.
Like doing a $250,000 house in a market where you can still buy $100,000 houses, that keeps some people unable to pull the trigger on more than one project at a time.
Right.
So we can come in and we can meet a need for someone and piggyback on their, we saw a Detroit package this week that I would say 90% of the street was vacant. I had never seen that before. I heard about it, but I started thinking price-wise, I think I can make these things work. And, the average age is 111 years old.
Was it in the city of Detroit, within the city limits? Yeah. Dude, be so careful.
I looked at it, I treated it like it was a genuine lead, and I would like to work with you on this lead if I can make it work. But I've never done a deal in Michigan all the way around the whole state. So
yeah, I was going to dive into it, but I decided to steer clear. You brought it up. So if you have a deal in Detroit, please call me before you send anybody any money because it's so street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood. And if it looked mostly vacant on the street, probably bad news, honestly. So, good rule of thumb. And if people from Michigan are listening, I could get some hate mail, but good rule of thumb. East side bad, west side potentially good. It's kind of the way it boils down. There's exceptions, but very interesting. So, okay, so I had a question and now it's leaving my head. What was my question for you? I had a good one. Boom. Oh, I know what it was. It wasn't really a question. It was more of a comment, but I think that's really brilliant that you're using professionals like realtors or brokers to tell you who the good, handyman or the good contractor is. That's so smart. But that leads me to the next question that I think is, it's burning on everyone's mind because I get this thing 500 times a week, it sounds like. You said you're closing on 15 deals in the pipeline, and you're closing on, I don't remember how many you said this month. How are you finding deals? Where are you getting your leads?
So the benefit of it being my 20th year is that I get a lot of relationship stuff. And like I may go a whole year without being able to see you or speak to you again or other. And there's just stuff that comes up in my area through your network, and vice versa. You'll get a text from me. You'll look, oh yeah, I can totally look at this deal with you. And in a heartbeat, when you say no, I have no reason to go any further than the fact that that deal doesn't work, or that project doesn't work or other. So I've got a great deal of people. Like I don't personally shop MLS at all. Like it just is, I don't have the bandwidth for that.
Okay.
And so agents will reach out and they'll say, hey, I got a great one in our office. It's pre-MLS, or I have a great one in my office. They know that I will give it right back to them. Like I'm not an agent, I'm not a broker, I'm an investor. Mm-hmm. And so by identifying myself there's never any kind of like confusion on who I'm going to work with. Everybody's incentivized for the win. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean that as I'm about to break even on a deal, I'm going to pay you a $25,000 commission on the exit. You know, like it's like this. Yeah. I can't go in the negative and lose $25,000.
Right.
Like, so we've had them like, just give, kick in. So it's like they're making $10,000 on a deal where I broke even. You know, so they get the better end of that. The people look at it like, oh, you're making money hand over fist. You bought it for $100 and you sold it for $200. Like, no, that's not really it. But there is a huge digital push right now too, where some people don't. I mean, I'm old school. Like I'll pick up the phone, I will work a deal that comes through. People speak to me direct. But there's a lot of people who are doing digital anything, and I'm investing now with a company that's doing AI-based leads, like handwritten letters, and the call to action is a phone number for texting, or the call to action is it's a little further right now than I don't have the metrics to say that is our hottest lead source, but mine right now has been wholesale, referral, and just relationship.
Okay. When you say wholesale, you mean wholesalers, right? You're buying from wholesalers.
Specific. Gotcha. Directly purchasing from wholesalers.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's great. And I think what's important to say, to mention about that, and maybe this is a little self-serving because I'm a wholesaler, but I hear people sometimes say, I don't buy from wholesalers because they make a lot of money. They mark it up. And it's like, you're missing the point. You're not spending time or money generating the lead, and they're putting money out there and presumably sometimes spending, in my company, we spend $20,000, $30,000 a month on leads, right? Yeah. So, and it's there for you in a silver platter. Are they making money? Yes, but it doesn't matter. I always tell people, do you care if I sell you a house and I, like to you, Tommy, and I say it's $100,000 and you do your due diligence and your underwriting, you're like, wow, $100,000, that works for me. Do you care if I bought it for $95,000 or if I bought it for $10,000? Like it shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter because you got the price that you wanted.
It has killed deals. It will kill deals. Yes. And the person that is willing to say that has usually not been a seller enough, because when it turns out that you projected or you're going to put one on the market for 200 and you put on the market for 250 and you get over asking.
Yes.
And the people look at the math and like, you bought this for 90. Like I'm going to offer you 200. You are asking 200. Well, the thing I bid up, to 250, it's like this, as if what we paid for it was part of that. Well, just making sure their margin's not greater than 10%.
Yeah, like, exactly.
That box will never get checked in a market like this.
No, not at all. And I think, listen, if you were happy with the purchase price, my thing is don't look in anybody else's pockets. If you were happy with what you got, you should be happy regardless. So, so let's talk about that a little bit though. Your lead generation, I know you've been doing this a long time. You get referrals. Sure. But when people say, I just can't find any deals in this market, and I always, I love that you're talking about referrals, because that's the long game. Okay. If you're new to real estate and you need a deal tomorrow, the answer isn't develop long-term relationships where there's mutual trust, because that is in fact a long-term play. What do you tell people who say, I'm new to real estate? How do I find deals? I don't have these relationships yet. I'm going to work on them, but I need something now.
Yeah, I feel like there's a foundation of who, inside of that, the buy box theory you kind of go back to. If you can tell someone specifically what you're looking for, you can tell 10 people specifically what you're looking for. Like we bought We bought a $12,000 house in Arkansas. And I now, from that one purchase, with hiring the broker to dispose of it for us after, we got an apartment complex lead. Like, do people genuinely know what you're looking for, or do you just assume that you think they should know what kind of products it is that you're doing? My closings this month, they're going to range from a $37,000 condo to a $500,000 single family flip.
Yeah.
And it's a very broad in two completely different states. But I will tell you, if I had a commitment and a written goal to call 6 brokers a week, 6 brokers a day inside of that market and then I'm going to do a follow-up that next week, or for certain ones, do a follow-up. The quality of the relationships and, the qualified leads that come through will grow a lot faster.
How do you stand out? Assuming that these brokers get calls from investors all the time, what would you suggest someone say when they're making this initial contact or they're reaching out to a broker?
I like to say it about we. I use the word we a lot, especially for the people who I'm trying to mentor through a lot of this, is that, hey, my partner and I have been doing this for 20 years. I'll be your partner. Like, you could genuinely say inside of that. I mean, if you called me like, hey, I need a proof of funds for not less than $1.1 million, I'd scrape together whatever I could accomplish, and we would be looking at that transaction. If you have that pitch and it is genuine, it's like, if someone has contacted me and said, hey, I'm looking at yields that are not going to be less than 20%, and I'm thinking that we can turn these things 4 times a year. That's a pre-compounded 80% ROI on my investment. Like, that gets my attention, know. And then, so if somebody wants to work a deal as if my money is ours, I feel like what sets people apart is you get someone working with you that understands deals. I mean, people fall in love with deals. You're like, look, you have to fall out of love with this deal. Like, I've been down this road before, or like, this is the best deal ever. Please do not lose contact with this lady. Like, this seller, I need this thing to close because I get emotionally attached to it.
Totally.
And, you could partner. Most of that no finance down stuff, the real estate flips, comes from someone has the money.
Yeah.
We have it. Here's our proof of funds. You can shop with our proof of funds for our entity, and then just do a side agreement that your fee ranges from $5,000 to $50,000, depending on how much profitability is.
Right.
There's all kinds of different ways inside of the no money down world, but I feel like it starts with relationships and we.
So what do you think about the BRRRR strategy? Is that something that you guys utilize a lot or not?
The hands down the best. Like, it's regional lender dominated. The national lenders will do it. But if I could cover my overhead and only do BRRRRs right now, I think that the liability in flipping in California is not super awesome.
Yeah.
That it's less interesting. And our Environmental Quality Act that had, passed, there's all kinds of stuff that kind of comes in that puts a reasonable floor on what it costs to build here.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get into assets, not get into the fluctuation of, interest rates are affecting the end of volume. Like, if you're looking long-term, that BRRRR market, especially for, understand your buy box. If you're like a licensed professional, anytime you see it with doctors, you see it with people that are they're hard charging professionals, and they're also diversifying into real estate. Buy it, rehab it, rent it, refinance it, repeat. Like, it was my favorite part of this world, which is why iloverentals.com kind of get built. So
that's awesome. So if someone's listening to this and they say, okay, I get it. The BRRRR strategy is awesome. We all know that. And you said it's regionally, dominated by regional banks and local banks. What does one who's never done this before or talked to a bank about this, what does one say to a bank when they approach their local credit union and they want to have this relationship? What do they say? How do you frame that?
I would say the fork in the road there is, I currently have this house I want to refinance, versus I'm looking at buying this house all cash for $30,000.
Yeah.
It needs 100% of its purchase price in order to make it livable again.
Yeah.
But I feel very confident it's worth around that $100,000 marker.
Yeah.
I feel like the difference that what people need to know for that first BRRRR deal, the second BRRRR deal, there ever is that the debt coverage ratio, the bank wants to know, at a reasonable rent, can you PITI cover it? Can you cover my principal, my interest, my taxes, my insurance?
Yeah.
And then it is not a science from there. It's like rent $750, payments $375. I feel confident in this that I can cover the mortgage, including a vacancy rate.
Yeah.
And so if you understand the products that they're offering, 6 months seasoning or 6 months worth of rent, or whatever it is, as long as you can check those boxes, they want to put the money out. I mean, these are people who are incentivized. Mortgage brokers are incentivized to loan you money. It's not like they're not the no of the bank.
Totally.
There's some real strength from the mortgage side.
Totally. Will this work? Will the burst strategy continue to function as it should when interest rates inevitably go up?
I would say that the convenient part of that money is the world of a paper subprime. Like that, for the people that are doing high volume, it might change. The crystal ball of where rent is going, even in some of these smaller towns, show that a 1 point tick is not going to make a huge difference for the BRRRR strategy. And a lot of BRRRR investors at one point in time will have free and clear assets or be able to kind of rotate, monies through. And you can, I feel like the real big opportunity is that commercial BRRRR, the small multifamily.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I don't think if interest rates go up a little, I just don't think it's going to have that dramatic of an impact. I think it'll still work. Fine. Yeah. Just, we're lucky right now. Interest rates are so low. It's great, but I don't think it stops working, in 3 years when interest rates are different. I don't think it does personally.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that? I want to thank you again for your time and your expertise. This is awesome. I could literally, you're so easy to talk to. I could sit here for another hour easily and just shoot the breeze about real estate.
I agree. I feel like that is what, when I get into a real estate investment room, that conference mentality, it's like, I just talk through. It's like, or get text messages that, that come through from people that I hadn't heard from in a while. But for branding purposes, you can look me up on LinkedIn as Tommy Christy, but for ilovehouses.com or Tommy@ilovehouses.com on the email. You can kind of see it over my shoulder. Here's my 916 buy sell truck. You actually phone call 916 buy sell. It'll ring, to my cell phone.
Awesome.
So
that's awesome.
I bought that one for like $1,200.
Wow.
I prepaid the girl's cell phone for an entire year if she agreed to sell me.
That's hilarious.
And, she's like,
that's awesome.
I'm good with that. She talked to her husband and he agreed. He's like, okay.
All right. I'm always intrigued and a little afraid when people put their phone number out or a number where they can be reached directly on the podcast. But I love it, man. God bless you. I love it. Yeah. Hopefully you get calls from people going, "Hey, Tommy, what's up?"
No,
man?
You guys got a great network. I'm hoping to really mature something out. This would be great.
Good. I love it, man. I love it. And thanks again for your time. Like I said, I appreciate it. We all listen. Time is the commodity that we don't get back. It's the thing that we all should be protecting with all of our hearts and souls. And so I do appreciate your time on this. I love that you took the time to do it, and it was a real fun and a pleasure to get to know you a little better. So thanks again for doing it, man.
Yeah, you too. I really look forward to kind of keep our relationship going.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, man. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun talking to Tommy. He's a really good guy. We actually met up on Zoom to kind of get to know each other a little bit better before we even logged on today, like a week or two ago. And it was time well spent because I have a lot of respect for him. He really knows what he's doing, and he has such a good attitude about the business and about growth and about just how to make this whole thing work and what it takes to be successful, and just the kind of person I like having on the show. And I hope you guys really felt that. I hope it came through, and I hope it was a good interview for you as well, because like I said, I enjoyed the heck out of it. So get out there and get started, guys. Don't wait. Figure out your buy box. Go for it. Start moving. 10 years is going to go by, and whether or not you start your business or grow your business now or wait, it's still going to go by. Let's get it done now. Your future self will thank you. All right, we'll see you next time.